Your moon sign in astrology will often show the kind of relationship that you had with your mother. And I don't often hear astrologers going in depth about this, but the sign of your moon often does show what kind of dynamic you had. Not necessarily positive or negative, that's going to be more aspects in the chart, but what kind of relationship you had with your mother or the maternal parent. In some cases, it might be a grandparent or a father. So I'm going to run through each of the signs to give a gist of what your moon sign can show about your relationship with your mother. If you're an Aries moon, you have a very direct, kind of belligerent relationship with your mother. Like, fuck you, but then you make up immediately. Not too deep, although it might be stressful, kind of combative, but like a tough love energy. If you're a Taurus moon, this is a very, very supportive, very grounded relationship, showing a lot of stability, a lot of dependability, and maybe not the most overtly affectionate or emotional mother relationship, but one that's rooted on like responsibility, really stable. Like, that's the word for a Taurus moon. It's also exalted, which is objectively like a very, very, very good placement. Gemini moon is very chatty and almost like you used to gossip or be friends with your mom. I've seen this in so many cases where someone with a Gemini moon is literally friends with their mom more than depending on their mom. It's a very like chatty, very conversational, not super deep or combative, but maybe even like jealous kind of energy. Cancer moon is very, very close with their mother. This is like the mama's girl or mama's boy placement. Shows maybe some codependence or some toxic kind of interrelational dependability, but usually almost always showing a very close, very supportive, very, very nurturing relationship. Especially if it's a man with a Cancer moon, they're usually very close with and nurtured by their mom. Girls can often be close with their mother and like aspire to be like them. Because the moon rules Cancer, this is a very healthy, very supportive placement. Leo moons often have some sort of a pageant mom energy where their mom was very entertaining, very life of the party, and they had a lot of fun with their mother. There could have been some, not necessarily jealousy, but some image issues where the mother wanted them to look or behave in a certain way for the image of it, and it could feel very appearance-based for a lot of things with their mother. But Leo moons often had a very protective mama bear kind of mother as well, like pageant mom energy all around. It's not usually super deep or like toxic even, but it can come with some drama. There's some drama there, but usually very playful as well. Virgo moons usually had a very business-like relationship with their mother. Their mother was very detail-oriented, taught them how to do practical things around the house. It was not super loving or affectionate, although it was probably not over-the-top, like aggressive or anything dramatic. In fact, it could have been very cold and cordial and might have wished for more like affectionate home, although you can't really like complain in and on its own with the Virgo moon because usually the mom was very competent. Libra moons, like myself, often have a very surface level, not deep, but therefore not super problematic or intense relationship with their mother. Usually shows that things stay passive aggressive and very on the surface. They're not about really deep conflicts and they're not about being confrontational. Any issues are going to be behind the scenes and unspoken. In a positive way, it can show a lot of like aesthetic bonding between mother and daughter where things around appearance or social events or like guys even, like there was a lot of bonding there. But again, it does not show depth usually. It usually actually shows, it feels very much you're on the surface with that relationship. Scorpio moons, on the other hand, typically have a very intense relationship with their mother, lots of ups and downs, maybe even what you could consider a trauma bond or going through very intense things together. The positive side of this is the really, really extreme bonding. Like you were through thick and thin together. You have gone through like, you have weathered a lot of storms together. The downside can be what can feel like toxicity or like downright cruelty at its lows. So it tends to be a lot of ups and downs and possibly like the downs outweighing the closeness. The moon is in its fallen Scorpio, which can show some of the instability and this relationship not being the most positive out of all the familial relationships. Sagittarius moons typically have a very fun, loving relationship with their mother who could have been an adventurous or just like outright wild, crazy person. Usually Sagittarius moons have a mother that is very, very like young soul, young at heart energy, where they had a lot of fun together. It's not necessarily that like there wasn't any respect or anything there, but like this is the kind of mom where you called her by her first name because she was so cool and chill and probably very well read and traveled as if she lived a lot of life. Capricorn moons typically raise their mother or had to parent themselves because their mother was very cold and emotionally unavailable. It can show learning a lot of practical life skills, either because your mother was not there to teach you or because your mother was a business person. But having a Capricorn moon, pretty objectively, even if your mother's, a good person, shows raising yourself to a certain degree and getting it together very early on because your mother was not offering that emotional support in a way that was really landing with you. Alternatively, it might just show that she's a very serious person and very, very business oriented, and that was how you grew up. Aquarius moons typically had a really weird mom. Not a really crazy mom, not a really emotional mom, just a non-conformist or mother who thought so far outside the box that you often felt like you were isolated with her looking at the rest of the world. This doesn't really show usually a toxic relationship or anything that's sort of violent or that deep, but it shows a sort of distance or analysis together rather than huge bonding where they're kind of like a member of your family, but not necessarily someone that you're super close to because most of your relationship together was informative. And then for Pisces moons, their mother was typically quite a soul searcher. She might literally have been gone for periods of time, or she just may have been someone who was more mystical or more confusing to a young child. It usually shows a ton of artistic and emotional support, like they really, really cared about you, but can often also show that there was an amount of confusion because maybe she was emotionally unavailable or going through her own things, which meant that her relationship with you was overall confusing. However, usually they're teaching you valuable lessons around intuitive matters, like more feminine things, also art or like travel related things. Expanding your mind is usually huge. They're just usually not the most responsible parent. So I'm sure the comments are going to be filled with people being like, my mom is nothing like that. My mom was highly abusive. My mom was the best kind of thing. Your chart will be specific to your aspects to the moon, so obviously the comments are going to be filled with the exceptions to this. However, for the moon sign itself, this usually is the baseline that things can adjust around, so let me know how it lands with you.